When a ruthless racist biker named Buzz Sawyer brutally breaks the arm of an innocent 8-year-old girl, he doesn't realize he's just made the biggest mistake of his life, because that little girl is Mike Tyson's daughter. As the terrified crowd watches, Tyson arrives, his fury colder than ice. What begins as a tense confrontation soon erupts into a bone-crushing battle. Outnumbered but unstoppable, Tyson dismantles Buzz's gang with brutal precision. But when Buzz pulls a gun, the fight turns deadly. Will Tyson deliver justice, or will vengeance consume him? The storm is coming. Subscribe and like this video to see how the story unfolds. It's a beautiful Saturday afternoon at a small neighborhood park. The air is filled with the sound of children's laughter as they run and play under the warm rays of the sun. Parents, seated on park benches or sprawled on picnic blankets, watch with affectionate smiles as their young ones frolic and explore. The birds sing their songs, lending their melodic chirps to the symphony of joy that fills the park. All seems peaceful and perfect in this picturesque setting. There's a gentle giant amidst the happiness, watching his daughter with a tender smile gracing his rugged features. Mike Tyson, the legendary boxer now in his mid-50s but still built like a tank, gazes adoringly at his 8-year-old daughter, Layla Tyson. She's a vision of youthful joy, her pink bicycle gliding smoothly across the sidewalk, her tight curls bouncing and dancing beneath her helmet. Her laughter, full of innocence and unbridled delight, rings through the park, echoing in her father's heart. Mike Tyson, dressed in a comfortable tracksuit, follows his daughter's every movement with prideful eyes. A grin spreads across his face as Layla pedals faster, eager to show off her skills to her idolized father. "That's my girl," Tyson roars, his voice booming like thunder yet laced with warm affection. "You're getting faster, champ!" Layla, filled with excitement, turns her head to her dad, the sun catching the gleam of her sparkling eyes. "Daddy, watch this!" Layla exclaims, her voice brimming with youthful exuberance. She's eager to show off her biking prowess, her pink bicycle gathering speed as she weaves through the park, the wind whipping through her bouncing curls. As Layla picks up speed, her determination to impress her father fueling her young heart, Mike Tyson leans forward on the bench, his eyes riveted on his daughter's joyful performance. His smile widens with pride, but just as Layla reaches the peak of her speed, the faint but menacing sound of roaring motorcycle engines intrudes on the peaceful afternoon. Tyson's eyebrows furrow, his smile replaced with a look of cautious concern. With a thundering roar, a gang of bikers tears down the road on the other side of the park, their engines growling like feral beasts. Buzz Sawyer, a towering figure covered in tattoos and shrouded in menace, leads the pack. The menacing edge of the bikers' presence sends shivers down the spines of those in the vicinity. The gang members, emboldened by their leader's presence, ride their motorcycles dangerously close to the sidewalk, their laughter booming like a war cry as they guzzle beer from cans. Layla, gleeful and unaware of the impending danger, pedals across the sidewalk, veering dangerously close to the road. It's then that Buzz, his eyes narrowing into a malevolent glare, sets his sights on the unsuspecting girl. With a wicked smirk, Buzz whispers to himself, "Get out of my way, kid." His foot slams down on the accelerator, the roar of the engine intensifying as he steers his bike directly towards Layla. Time seems to stand still as Buzz veers closer and closer to Layla, his bike almost seemingly hungering for the collision. Layla, her eyes going wide with fear, twists the handlebars of her bicycle desperately, but it's futile. The bicycle's tires squeal in protest as the bike skids sideways, the impact imminent. The scream of a child echoes through the park, piercing the otherwise peaceful afternoon. The brutal impact of metal against flesh is deafening. Buzz's motorcycle smashes into Layla's bike, the force propelling her tiny body into the air. She hurtles through the air like a rag doll, her screams piercing the air as she hurtles towards the unforgiving pavement. With a sickening thud, Layla hits the ground, her small frame crumpling from the force. A sharp crack sounds as her arm bends in a grotesque, unnatural angle, her delicate body twisted and broken. In the wake of Layla's heartbreaking crash, the once bustling park falls eerily silent. The joyful clamor of children's laughter and adults' conversations is replaced by horrified gasps and terrified screams as parents rush to shield their own children from the gruesome sight. In stark contrast, the bikers erupt in laughter, their cackles cutting through the stunned silence like daggers. Their mockery is an affront to the very fabric of humanity. their callousness a testament to their depravity. Buzz's biker boots skid against the asphalt, leaving twin scars on the road. With a casual shrug, he twists his body to peer over his shoulder, his gaze fixing on the mangled form of Layla. A cruel, vindictive smirk curls his lips as he sneers, his voice dripping with mockery. "Oops," he taunts, chuckling heartlessly. "Guess she should have moved faster." The words are a harsh indictment of his utter lack of empathy, his disdain for life itself as palpable as the revving of his bike's engine. Parents and bystanders, bravely spurred to action by the sight of the helpless Layla, rush towards her, their desire to offer aid overcoming their fear. But Buzz's gang, sensing the potential threat to their leader, rev their engines menacingly, creating a cacophony of noise that terrifies the crowd into retreating. A mother, her heartbreak turning to indignation, pulls out her phone, her fingers trembling as she dials 911. Buzz, his eyes cold and deadly, glares at the woman. Buzz glares at the mother, his words spitting out like venom. "You dial that phone, lady, and I'll break your arm next," he growls, his voice a low and sinister promise of violence. The threat hangs heavy in the air, suffocating the crowd as they draw back in terror, unwilling to risk the wrath of the bikers. Frozen by the bikers' threat, the mother freezes, her courage crumbling as fear takes hold of her heart. Meanwhile, Layla, crumpled on the ground, begins to sob, her delicate frame racked with pain and fear. Through her tears, she calls out the only name that can offer her solace, a desperate plea for comfort. "Daddy, Daddy!" Layla's voice breaks, her cries a haunting melody that pierces through the park. Unwilling to watch the cruelty unfold, an elderly man, his hands trembling with fury, steps forward. "You're a monster!" he roars, his voice filled with raw indignation. "You just hit a little girl. What kind of person does that?" The elderly man's anger is a beacon of light amidst the darkness, his voice a furious defense of humanity in the face of cruelty. The other bystanders murmur in agreement, their fear momentarily forgotten as their outrage builds. Buzz dismounts his bike, his biker boots stomping on the asphalt as he looms over the elderly man, the air thick with menace. "What are you gonna do about it, Grandpa?" Buzz sneers, his grin as sharp as a knife's edge. Despite the elderly man's courage, his fists clenched and ready for a fight, Buzz remains unfazed, his arrogance a shield against the old man's defiance. A cruel smile plays on Buzz's lips as he shifts his gaze towards Layla, her pitiful cries tugging at his heartstrings. Not with empathy, but with satisfaction. "Should have known better than to be in my way," he says, his voice cold and unfeeling as he mocks the helpless child. Like the hush before a thunderstorm, the crowd's murmuring tapers off into silence, their fear and outrage at a boiling point. Buzz, emboldened by his perceived invincibility, turns to his gang, his laughter echoing through the park. But then, a voice rings out like a dagger piercing the silence. "What did you just say?" The low, deadly calm in Mike Tyson's voice, combined with the words themselves, cuts through the air like a razor blade. The crowd, sensing the brewing storm, scatters, their instincts warning them to seek shelter from the gathering tempest. And from this sea of humanity, Mike Tyson emerges, his imposing figure radiating a quiet, deadly menace. The sunlight glints off his polished scalp, illuminating his face like a spotlight, accentuating the raw, volcanic fury simmering beneath his steely gaze. His jaw is clenched, his fists balled up like hammers ready to strike. With each step, the ground seems to tremble, the power in his muscles radiating outward, sending shockwaves through the air. The mocking smirk on Buzz's face falters as he turns to face the man who dared to challenge him. His eyes widen as he takes in the sheer presence of Mike Tyson, his unease palpable despite his attempt to maintain his facade of bravado. "And who the hell are you supposed to be?" Buzz asks, his voice laced with derision, but his confidence wavering ever so slightly under the weight of Mike Tyson's steely gaze. The silence hangs heavy in the air, the tension palpable as Mike Tyson's gaze lingers on his daughter, her small form huddled on the ground, her sobs a painful reminder of her fragile state. Tyson says nothing, his jaw clenched as he surveys the damage inflicted on his daughter. His fingers flex, the sound of joints cracking like thunder in the stillness. His breathing slows to a near imperceptible rhythm, his body coiling like a spring, ready to explode. Layla, her voice weak and broken, breaks the silence. Daddy, my arm hurts, Layla sobs, her words laced with pain and fear. The sound seems to snap Tyson back to reality, his eyes shifting from his daughter to Buzz, the hatred in his gaze like a wildfire raging in his soul. With the deliberate care of a father's love, Mike Tyson kneels beside his injured daughter, his immense frame almost dwarfing her. His hands, which have inflicted destruction in the boxing ring, are transformed into a tender caress, his calloused fingers gliding gently over Layla's forehead. As Tyson gazes at his child, his eyes take on a darkness, his jaw clenching as he contains the volcanic rage boiling inside. The world seems to hold its breath as Mike Tyson lifts his gaze from his daughter, his eyes boring into Buzz with a fury that could level mountains. His voice, when it emerges from the depths of his soul, is like thunder rolling over the earth, a force of nature made manifest. You hurt my little girl, he says, each word a detonation, a promise of destruction that leaves Buzz quaking in his biker boots. The crowd, witnesses to the unfolding drama, shudders collectively as Mike Tyson's voice reverberates through their bones. Buzz, however, tries to maintain his cool, forcing a chuckle that rings hollow in the face of Tyson's fury. Yeah? And? She'll live. Maybe, he says, his tone nonchalant, a feeble attempt to hide the tremble in his voice. Tyson doesn't move, his eyes burning with rage. Like an unstoppable juggernaut, Mike Tyson rises from his kneeling position, his body unfolding inch by inch, his towering frame casting a shadow over Buzz. Every movement is deliberate, each muscle tensing and flexing as he straightens to his full height. The earth beneath his feet seems to tremble in response to his raw power, the air thick with anticipation. Tyson's presence is electrifying, crackling with a ferocity that commands attention, a force of nature about to unleash its full fury. Buzz, his bravado teetering on the brink of failure, attempts one last attempt at mocking defiance. What, you gonna cry about it? He spits, his voice wavering slightly. Tyson, his eyes narrowed, his gaze a chilling promise, replies in a low, menacing tone. No. His voice hangs in the air, pregnant with dread, then in a beat he delivers his counter. I'm gonna make you feel what she felt. Like a taut wire stretched to its breaking point, the tension shatters, the crowd's collective gasp, a testament to the gravity of Tyson's threat. Buzz's eyes widen, his blood running cold, as he realizes the perilous position he finds himself in. And, just as lightning strikes without warning, Mike Tyson unleashes his rage, hurtling towards the biker leader like a force of nature. Seeing their leader about to face Tyson's fury, Buzz's gang members move forward, their hands gripping various weapons, knives, chains, brass knuckles, and menacing snarls curling their lips. But Tyson remains unmoved, his eyes never leaving Buzz, his posture a defiant challenge. Buzz, his bravado rapidly evaporating, turns to his gang, his nervous laughter a pathetic attempt to reassert his control. Is this guy serious? He asks, his voice quivering with uncertainty. He thinks he can take all of us? The softness of Mike Tyson's voice is deceptive, a calm before the storm that's about to engulf Buzz. His words are a chilling portent of what's to come. I don't need to take all of you, Tyson says, his gaze fixed on Buzz, the weight of his words heavy with meaning. He pauses, allowing the words to sink in before delivering the chilling punchline. Just you. Buzz's smirk vanishes, his swagger disintegrating under the unblinking scrutiny of Tyson's predatory gaze. Years of brawling and intimidating others have taught him to exude confidence. But now, for the first time in his life, he feels the icy grip of fear clutch at his heart. In Tyson's eyes, Buzz sees a primal hunger for retribution, an ancient fury about to be unleashed. And he knows, deep in the pit of his stomach, that he has pushed the wrong man too far. The park, once filled with the joyful sounds of life, has transformed into a silent battleground, a desolate landscape where the only sounds are the grumbling motorcycle engines, a menacing chorus for the approaching violence. And at the epicenter of this tension stands Mike Tyson, a force of nature incarnate. He seems carved from stone, his powerful physique frozen, his muscles tensed, ready to explode into action. Tyson's fists clench and unclench in rhythm, like twin-coiled snakes waiting to strike. but his breathing remains steady, his control absolute. Buzz's mockery is a facade, a thin veneer of bravado, barely concealing the terror clawing at his guts. His laughter rings hollow, a pathetic attempt to cover the unease that's creeping up his spine. He knows Tyson is a force to be reckoned with, a man whose very presence exudes danger and power. But Buzz is a stubborn creature, his pride refusing to let him back down. "You serious, old man?" he says, his voice dripping with disdain, his words meant to goad Tyson into making the first move. With every step, Tyson comes closer, his heavy footfalls thudding on the ground like a drumbeat, the distance between him and Buzz shrinking with each passing moment. But there's no sense of haste, no hint of panic in his movement. He advances with a slow, deliberate gait, his eyes fixed on his prey, his presence alone a crushing weight that seems to suck the air from Buzz's lungs. He is a predator, relishing the anticipation of the hunt, savoring the terror building in Buzz's mind as he realizes too late that Tyson is in complete control. Buzz's bravado is unraveling, his swagger wilting like a flower in the cold. He clenches his teeth, his desperation growing as Tyson's relentless advance leaves him with nowhere to retreat. "You touch me, you're a dead man," he spits, a feeble attempt to assert authority over the scene that has spiraled out of his control. But Tyson's words, soft yet filled with a murderous intent, cut through Buzz's bluster like a scythe through wheat. "You already dead." The simple, quiet declaration is a grim reminder of Tyson. And then, in a moment that seems to freeze time, Tyson unleashes his fury. Like a bolt of lightning, he explodes forward, a blur of motion that's too fast for the human eye to track. Buzz, caught off guard by the sudden onslaught, has only enough time to register the punch coming towards him. Tyson's fist, a cannonball of brute strength and precision, slams into Buzz's jaw like a sledgehammer, sending him hurtling through the air with a devastating crack. The gang members stand in paralyzed shock, their bravado shattered by the sheer brutality of Tyson's punch. They stare, slack-jawed and wide-eyed, as Buzz crumples to the ground, his body mangled by the force of the impact. Groans of pain escape Buzz's lips, a pathetic sound compared to the roar of the motorcycle engines mere moments ago. Blood pools beneath him, dripping from his mouth like a macabre offering to the furious Tyson. Tyson's relentless march continues, his fists still raised, his imposing form like a pillar of wrath. He approaches his victim with the inevitability of a force of nature, his expression a mask of pure, unfiltered fury. Buzz, shaken to his core, manages to stagger to his feet, the animalistic growl of his words punctuated by a spray of blood. You son of a..." Tyson's left hook rockets towards Buzz, his fist connecting with the biker's ribs in a cacophonous thud that echoes through the park. The sickening sound reverberates like a gong, a grim testament to the devastating impact of Tyson's punch. Buzz doubles over, his ribs protesting against the violent intrusion, his vision blurring as pain shoots through his body like lightning. Tyson, unrelenting, stalks forward, his fists a blur of movement as he closes in on his prey. Buzz's screams slice through the air, his agony a symphony of torment that reverberates through the park. The sound pierces the ears of his gang members who, galvanized by the primal cry, finally spring into action. Roaring with rage, they charge towards Tyson, their fists clenched, their teeth bared. But Tyson, unflinching, raises his fists like hammers of justice, ready to strike down these apostles of hatred with the righteousness of a father's vengeance. Tank, his muscles rippling beneath his leather vest, swings his chain with the force of a wrecking ball. The steel glints in the sunlight, its weight pulling on his arm like an anchor. But Tyson's combat experience is ingrained in his DNA. The duck comes instinctively, his evasion a testament to years of training and instinct. Like a flash of lightning, Tyson slips inside Tank's defenses, his uppercut rising from the ground like a demonic fist from the underworld. Tank's body responds to the violent thrust of Tyson's uppercut, his feet lifting from the ground as if catapulted. He arches his back, his spine contorting in unnatural ways, his body betraying the laws of gravity as he sails through the air like a human cannonball. And then, with a deafening thud, Tank hits the ground, the impact reverberating through the earth. Like a snake slithering around its prey, Tyson's movements are fluid, his lithe body avoiding the biker's blade with a swift twist of his torso. His hand shoots out like a striking cobra, catching the biker's wrist and snapping it with a single jerk. A scream, like a death rattle, erupts from the biker's throat, his hand dropping the knife as if it were on fire. And then, Tyson follows up, his elbow striking the biker's face with the force of a sledgehammer. Panic mixes with blind fury in Buzz's bloodshot eyes. The once confident biker, now a broken mess of arrogance and terror, pulls a pistol from his waistband, his hand shaking with adrenaline. He levels the gun at Tyson, his finger tightening on the trigger. But Tyson, unperturbed by the threat, continues to advance like a man possessed, the flames of vengeance blazing in his dark eyes. The crowd, already on edge, recoils in horror at the sight of the gun. Mothers and fathers huddle their children protectively, their bodies shielding the young from the impending carnage. Layla, her tiny voice quaking with fear, screams out for her father, her broken arm clutching her chest in a desperate attempt to self-soothe. The sight of his daughter's terror ignites something deep within Tyson, a primal, unstoppable fury that roars to life. Time slows to a glacial crawl, Tyson's body tensing, every muscle coiling like a spring. He's focused entirely on the gun, his eyes locked onto it as if it were the only thing left in existence. Buzz's smirk widens, the blood dripping from his lips, staining his teeth a crimson red. His breathing is ragged, but his confidence has returned, bolstered by the weapon in his hand. Yeah, that's right, tough guy. The air hangs heavy with tension. The balance of power shifted towards Buzz in the blink of an eye. The gun shakes in his hands, the barrel quivering like a frightened animal, but it remains trained on Tyson's heart. Tyson, his body coiled like a steel spring, is suddenly faced with a choice: to back down or to risk it all. The gun is a stark reminder of his own mortality, a stark contrast to his unbreakable confidence. But Tyson is no stranger to danger, and his will to protect his daughter is unwavering. Time seems to stand still, the crowd's collective breath held hostage by the tension in the air. Tyson's head tilts slightly, the air around him charged with an eerie calm that belies the chaos brewing beneath his skin. In a voice that's both calm and unsettling, Tyson speaks. You ever shot a man before? His words, simple yet loaded with implications, slice through the silence like a knife. Buzz's hesitation is his undoing. Tyson's words a hypnotic siren song that pulls him deeper into uncertainty. His finger trembles on the trigger, his bravado a withered husk of what it once was, and Tyson, his dark eyes glinting with ferocity, takes a single, deliberate step forward. His voice, a melody of menace, echoes through the park. You ever seen what a bullet do up close? What it feel like when it hit bone? How fast the blood come out? Buzz's Adam's apple bobs, his throat dry, the fear coursing through his veins like poison. The act of swallowing hard seems to punctuate the realization that he is, indeed, very much afraid. Tyson's relentless advance continues, each step like the beating of a drum, counting down the moments until the final confrontation. His voice, low and haunting, surrounds Buzz, suffocating him with every passing second. I seen men who wanted to kill me, Tyson says, his words heavy with implications. And you? Tyson continues, his voice trailing off for a beat. You just scared. The words, punctuated by the cold finality of his tone, strike like a death blow to Buzz's already battered ego. He's a man standing on the edge of a cliff, his fate now in Tyson's hands. Buzz's eyes flicker to Layla's broken form, the biker's own humanity, buried beneath a mountain of machismo rearing its head. But it's too late. Like a flash of lightning, Tyson's reflexes are lightning fast, his hands moving faster than the Buzz's fear-fogged brain can process. With the speed of a cobra, Tyson swipes the gun aside, his palm slamming into the metal with a resounding clang that echoes through the air. But Tyson is far from finished. With a bone-crunching snap, he grabs Buzz's wrist, crushing the delicate bones beneath his iron grip. Buzz's scream pierces the silence, a brutal accompaniment to the sound of the gun clattering to the pavement. Buzz's world spins, the sudden shift in gravity throwing his equilibrium off kilter. He gags, his feet flailing in the air as Tyson's hand closes around his throat, squeezing like a vice. The biker's terrified gaze meets Tyson's eyes, the pitiless expression of death itself staring back at him. Tyson's voice, a hollow void of rage, fills Buzz's ears, each syllable a hammer striking his soul. Now you feel what she felt, the air thick with the heat of Tyson. Tyson's fist pulls back, the veins pulsating like rivers of molten lava beneath his skin. The crowd's collective gasp, a choir of fear and awe, fills the air. It's as if the world itself is holding its breath. And then, with a power unlike anything the park has ever witnessed, Tyson's fist collides with Buzz's face in a devastating impact. The force is like a tsunami, unstoppable and all-consuming. Buzz's head whips back, his body succumbing to the blow before gravity even has a chance to pull him to the ground. Buzz hits the ground, his body limp, his crumpled form barely recognizable as human. The dirt beneath him is stained with blood, his body a macabre trophy of Tyson's vengeance. And then, as if a dam has broken, the crowd erupts into cheers, a thunderous roar that shakes the earth. Parents scoop up their children, strangers embrace, and the once paralyzed elderly man pumps his fist in the air with a joyous holler. As if awakened from a stupor, the bikers snap into action, their panic a palpable thing. They scramble onto their bikes, their movements frantic and clumsy like cockroaches scurrying away from the sudden glare of a flashlight. The growl of motorcycle engines fills the air as the bikers accelerate, tires squealing, scattering like rats abandoning a sinking ship. They leave Buzz behind, his broken body a testament to their defeat. In the aftermath of the brutal confrontation, the park is transformed into a sea of flashing lights as the police arrive, sirens screaming like banshees in the night. The officers move with a swift efficiency, their presence commanding order from the chaos. They secure the scene, the park now a crime scene, the remnants of the biker gang fading into the night like ghosts. As Tyson watches, paramedics gather around Layla, their movements gentle and reassuring. The girl, her eyes wide with fear, is finally tended to, her broken arm set in a temporary cast. Tyson kneels beside his daughter, his imposing figure suddenly made vulnerable, his legendary ferocity now softened into a tenderness that's reserved solely for his child. As he brushes away the tears from Layla's cheek, his own eyes, normally raging infernos, now hold a warmth that shines like the sun. "Did you beat the bad man?" Layla asks, her voice a hushed whisper. Tyson smiles softly. "He ain't ever gonna hurt nobody again, baby," he says, his tone protective and reassuring, offering his child the comfort only a parent can provide. Like a wounded bird returning to its nest, Layla wraps her good arm around her father's neck, her small body seeking comfort in Tyson's embrace. The gesture, fragile and innocent, is a poignant reminder of the profound bond between parent and child. Tyson, his strength tempered by love, lifts his daughter gently, cradling her in his arms like a precious treasure. He carries her towards the waiting ambulance, the dim light of the interior casting a halo around their silhouettes as they step into its womb of healing. The police captain, her expression as unmovable as stone, strides towards Tyson, her eyes piercing and her posture radiating authority. "You got anything to say about what happened here, Mr. Tyson?" she asks, her tone commanding, her words implying that she expects a clear-cut explanation for the violence that has unfolded. Tyson, his gaze never wavering from his daughter's face, responds with a level-headed calm that belies the power he wields. "A man hurt my daughter." The police captain, taken aback by Tyson's response, chuckles, shaking her head in bemused disbelief. The crowd, silent witnesses to the events that have unfolded, parts like the sea for Tyson and his daughter, making way for their path. In this moment, Tyson's legend, forged in the fires of boxing, has grown beyond the confines of the ring. He has become a vigilante, a symbol of justice and retribution. And as the camera pulls back, the scene fades into a distant whisper, leaving behind an image that lingers in the minds of all who witnessed it